It's great to be here. Thank you for being here today. We need you. We need you. I didn't hear what Senator Franken said or Senator McCain said, but I agree with it. This is a tough time. I do have the privilege of being the ranking Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And in that regard, it's my responsibility on behalf of the Democrats to try to work with American foreign policy and to influence our government as to how we present American values. And I start with what you do every day at ADL in making America stronger. What you do in promoting tolerance, what you do in promoting understanding, makes America a stronger country. America's strength is in our ideals. Yes, we have a strong military and want to keep a strong military, but that's not America's strength. Yes, we have the strongest economy in the world and we want to keep it stronger and it needs to be stronger, but that's not what makes America so special. What America is so special is what we believe in, our values. Our values of embracing diversity. Our values in respecting good governance, anti-corruption, human rights. That's what makes America the great nation it is, and that's what makes ADL the great organization that you are in promoting those values. And we're under siege. Our values are under siege. It started on almost the first day of office of President Trump in the executive order that he issued on immigration and refugees, attempting to impose a religious test as to who can come to this country. That's not American values. It doesn't reflect who we are as a nation. And we got to stand up against that type of policy. By the way, it doesn't make us safer. In fact, it puts us greater at risk. The day that executive order was issued, I met with King Abdullah of Jordan, who told me that it will be a recruitment tool for terrorists. It will make Americans target when they travel abroad. It will make it more difficult for moderate Arab states to work with the United States. And by the way, he told me we have 650,000 Syrian refugees in Jordan and they don't cause a problem. You're worried about a few thousand who have never caused a problem. So we got to speak out when our values are under assault. And just this past week, Secretary of State Tillerson, in remarks to the staff, people at the State Department, said, well, we might have to compromise our values in order to get a transaction done with another country. Now, I don't know what John McCain said about that when he was here. But let me just quote what he said in the New York Times op-ed this week about Secretary Tillerson's comments, because John McCain's my friend, my soulmate. We work together on human rights. We passed the Sergei Magnitsky Human Rights Act together to tell people in other countries, if you don't take care of people who violate human rights, we're not letting them in America, we're not letting them use our banking system. It was an incredible message about American values that has resonated around the world, and other countries have followed suit with American leadership. So Senator McCain said, in the real world as lived and experienced by real people, the demand for human rights and dignity, the longing for liberty and justice and opportunity, the hatred of oppression and corruption and cruelty is reality. By denying this experience, we deny the aspirations of billions of people and invite their enduring resentment. Our values are our strength and our greatest treasure. We are distinguished from other countries because we are not made from a land or tribe or a particular race or creed, but from the ideal that liberty is the inalienable right of mankind and in accord with nature and nature's creator. To view foreign policy as simply transactional is more dangerous than its proponents realize. Depriving the oppressed of a beacon of hope could lose us the world we have built and thrived in. It could cost us our reputation in history as the nation distinct from all others in our achievements, our identity, and our enduring influence on mankind. Our values are essential to all three. So that's what Senator McCain said. This is not a partisan issue. Fighting for American values is an American obligation and not a partisan issue in Congress. And we're going to continue to do that. And that's what ADL does every day. So let me give you your charge as you go on the Hill, lobbying for your rights. And one thing that President Trump has done that's positive, he's unleashed energy in this country that I've never seen before of people who want to get involved in our political system. That's good. These are people who have never been involved before. These are not partisans. These are people who are speaking up for women's rights, for science, for global climate change, for immigration rights, for good governance. And that's great to see that involvement. This room is full. That's fabulous. You're here to influence our political system. The power is not with the president. The power is not even with Congress. The power is with the people. We the people. And you can make an incredible difference. So yes, I hope that you will lobby on the Hill to deal with sensible immigration reform, because we desperately need that in this country. And yes, I hope that you will work on legislation I've authored to end racial and religious profiling, which can be dangerous as well as against our values. As Michael pointed out, I am the special representative of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. That's Europe, Asia, Central Asia, and North America, on fighting anti-Semitism, racism, and intolerance. And we've identified certain priorities, the anti-Muslim activities that we see in so many communities around, the anti-immigrant, and yes, racial profiling by police departments, which occur in our community, occurred in Baltimore. And we're still fighting the remnants with the consent order to get beyond those issues. But it also involves anti-Semitism and the rise of anti-Semitism. And we need to be more effective, because it leads to hate crimes, it leads to violence, and it's something that leadership can do something about. And we want our leaders to develop policies to promote tolerance and to let people know words have consequences. Words are not only hateful, they can incite violence, as we've seen in our own community. And we've got to speak out about that, speak out against that, and the things that we can do. There's a movement that's going on around the nation that's leading to anti-Semitism that's called BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. And we've got to speak loudly against those efforts. And we need your help. We need your help. Because there are good people who confuse BDS with freedom of speech when it has nothing to do about freedom of speech. It's an effort to delegitimize the state of Israel and to use commerce as a weapon. And the courts have ruled that we can fight those type of activities, and we have fought those type of activities. On the Hill, we have a bipartisan effort to continue our effort against the BDS movement. It started in the last Congress with Senator Portman and legislation that the two of us authored that requires our trade representatives in trade negotiations in Europe to negotiate anti-BDS provisions. That's now the law of the land, and that will have an impact. But since the passage of that bill, the United Nations Human Rights Council now has a data bank with companies that do business with Israel for the purposes of developing boycotts. We got to speak out against that. So Senator Portman and I have introduced legislation in this Congress to speak out against what the United Nations Human Rights Council is doing, encouraging boycotts, and telling our representatives, particularly at the international financial groups, XM Bank, to take that into consideration in dealing with countries that want the U.S. financial help, that they need to take action against BDS. And that bill can pass in this Congress with your help, and we need you lobbying on that issue today. And then lastly, let me just talk a little bit about the circumstances of Israel. There is an issue in Congress that does not, you think, directly affect Israel, but it's very much related to everything we've talked about this morning. And that is what type of budget we're going to have for this country. Is this going to be a budget that reduces the State Department budget by 36%? If we do that, Secretary of Defense Mattis said, you better give me more soldiers and bullets, because our foreign aid and diplomacy budget helps keep us safe. And in the Middle East, it's a critical part of our strategy, including our support for the State of Israel. And as that budget shrinks, the ability to be active in the Middle East becomes less possible. So as part of your lobbying, I hope that you will remind our colleagues of America's role internationally, and that our foreign assistance, development assistance, diplomacy budget is part of our strength and keeps America safe. And we need to have a robust international engagement. There are attacks against Israel. We know that Iran, we have a nuclear agreement. I'm not going to get into the politics of the JCPOA, but I can tell you as a person who did not support it, and many of us want to make sure that Iran complies with it. So we'll do everything we can to make sure that agreement is upheld by Iran and they never become a nuclear weapon state. That's our obligation. But we recognize that Iran's doing other activities, including one of the leading sponsors of terrorism in the world. They're actively engaged in Syria. They're actively engaged in Yemen. They're actively engaged with Hezbollah against Israel. Iran is a dangerous supporter of terrorism, and they haven't changed that one iota. And they're testing ballistic missiles against their international obligations. Ballistic missiles are delivery systems that can easily be modified from conventional weapons to nuclear weapons. That cannot be accepted. That violates their commitments, and they are one of the worst violators of human rights. So we have now bipartisan legislation that we've worked on that is in compliance with the JCPOA, no violation of our nuclear agreements, but says to Iran we won't tolerate those other activities. So we're working on that legislation. As you go around to offices, you might be hearing something about the Iran bill. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on what we're trying to do on Capitol Hill. The leader of the Palestinians, Mr. Abbas, was in town. We don't know exactly what happened. The president will be visiting Israel. So you couldn't be coming at a more opportune time in order to have impact on ADL's principal missions of respect and tolerance for diversity in our country and our deep love for the State of Israel. So I thank you for being here, and I thank you for participating in the process. We desperately need your activism, and it's wonderful to see this room completely filled. Thank you.